Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Joe Hoff Show. We are glad you are here. We are glad you're here every day. So thank you for being here and supporting us, supporting this channel, supporting Untamed Truth and all our advertisers and each other. Lots going on. By the way, even saying that, you think about it, the left's purpose has been to divide and conquer, pit us against each other big time after the 2020 election. A lot of grifters and I think operators were inserted into the election pool. It was difficult to even determine who some of these people were, but I think we've got a pretty good hold now. We know who's running a good program and who's not. And anyways, we've been blessed in a lot of ways. Lots going on. You saw Trump on Friday, less than a week ago, talk about we need to go to paper ballots, same day voting, voter ID, and only citizenship, citizens vote. So great stuff. We're really moving in the right direction. So, anyways, thrilled about that. Thrilled about all that's going on, and now it's starting to get really real. So we had Bongino over the weekend, Sunday night, being announced that he was going to be the next deputy director of the FBI, right under Cash, and they've already started some activity going after some of these creeps like Soros and Comey. And I'm telling you, Obama, your days are numbered. You're a big freaking crook. We all know it. God only knows if you should have even were even eligible to run for the presidency. And you're a mean, angry guy too, a sicko and sick, perverted, sick guy. And we're gonna get you. We're gonna get you, Soros, all you creeps that funneled over here, bubbled to the top of this government and just began destroying this country. You communists, you fascists, all of you were coming after you. So the news is great. Even in the last 24 hours, they're starting to go after some of these guys. So let's start the show off. This is something from Jesse Waters. It's about going after the grifters. Watch this.
We wouldn't need Doge if Congress had just done its job. You hear these stories about these bureaucrats taking naps, double dipping, having orgies. Now, there's now a transgender sex chat room at the NSA.
Where?
That Chris Rufo just discovered. Right. People are having sex change operations while working remotely, and the boss has no idea. That's why you have to get a hold of this. And I remember in the 80s and the 90s, I'm older than I look, you had the welfare queens. Remember these people that were on welfare, no job, they're riding around in Cadillacs, and that was exposed. And the Democrats never recovered. It took like 2 decades for the Democrats to recover from that. For some reason, the Democrats are rallying around, I feel you smirking, rallying around these crazy, lazy grifters, and it's going to hurt their brand. I sent my staff an email last night asking for 5 bullet points about what they did last week. We got them. We're going to air them tonight on the show. But I wish you were Jessica.
What?
Why?
Just do me a favor and identify as Jessica for the next 30 seconds, because she was saying that these protests at the town halls were totally organic.
Yep.
And now you find out they're Soros funded. Yep. And this is what the media does. They don't cover the $25 million Bert and Ernie in Baghdad. They get these fired USAID workers. Oh, it turns out they're liberal activists. They don't even report how popular these Doge cuts are. It's like 80% popularity. And then when they have a guest on, they're like, oh, my God, crying. That's why the CBS Evening News, 25 years ago, 10 million viewers a night. Today, the CBS News, 4.6 million. You know who else gets 4.6? The Five. We have doubled our audience. They have lost half of their audience, and it's because they disguise the news. We don't do that.
Fantastic, and what crap that these guys are working for the government and doing weird perverted stuff in the background in a chat room. What gross sickos, just perverted sick. That isn't who we need running our country or even working in our country. No way, no. We gotta clean this up, and we're doing it. We are absolutely doing it. By the way, they mentioned those numbers, 4 million a day. I guess CBS. I have a hard time believing that. I really have a hard time believing that. I don't know who's watching CBS right now, but That sounds far-fetched. I can't believe that the mainstream media is getting anywhere near those numbers. Cable was, now CNN, MSNBC are just diving. I do believe the number for Fox, but I just think new media like this, this Untamed Truth, all these different brands now on the internet, that's where people are going, and that's why they're growing. And by the way, um, right after the election of 2020, we at the Gateway Pundit, we were knocking it out of the park. I wrote three books about the 2020 election. As a result of a lot of this work, we were getting 5 million a day. So, what's four? You know what I mean? So, anyways, but good news, we're catching this stuff, and good news for Doge, we're catching massive trillions of dollars in fraud. So, not only that, now the thing that we've all been waiting for, if you're like me, I want these people in prison. If it's treason and they need to be hung, I want them addressed appropriately. This is outrageous what we've suffered through, and in all aspects, as these communist fascist monsters have tried to take us down, the good Americans, good godly Americans, and it's about time. So yesterday, President Trump signed what he deemed the Jack Smith order. It's just the beginning. You can tell it's just the beginning. But here's President Trump signing that order. It's a big deal. Watch this.
At the outset of your administration, sir, you committed to ending the weaponization of government, to holding those accountable who participated in the weaponization of government.
Hold it. This is a good one. Is everybody listening? Deranged Jack Smith. We're going to call it the Deranged Jack Smith signing or bill. Go ahead.
One law firm that provided pro bono legal services to the special counsel's office under Jack Smith's leadership was Covington and Burling. As a result of those actions, we're now going to be suspending and putting under review the security clearances for the attorneys and employees at that firm who worked with Jack Smith's team. And we're going to continue holding the people who were responsible for the weaponization of government, who supported it, accountable for what they did.
And you'll be doing this with other firms as time goes by, right?
We're looking at sort of the whole panoply of options.
The weaponization of our system by law firms, even pro bono work they're doing just in order to clog up government, stop government. And nobody knows about it more than me. And hopefully that'll never happen again.
So Covington and Burlington?
Covington and Burlington.
Mr. President, may I ask you a question about Europe? So long term, do you plan to maintain the number of U.S. troops
Wait,
stationed?
I just want to savor this one, please. Who would like this pen? Hey, why don't you send it to Jack Smith? A deranged person.
That was fantastic. Actually, there was another comment. One of these jackass reporters says, "Well, aren't you concerned about targeting people and going after people and being accused of doing that?" And Trump just shut the guy down and just said, "Hey, I've been targeted for 4 to 8 years. These people are monsters. These politicians have gone after me," is what he says. He just shut this guy down. And again, the audacity of this corrupt, disgusting media to ask that question of President Trump. He was shot, for Pete's sakes. He was attacked twice by assassins. And God knows, maybe more. And he survived. So yeah, what a clown. What clowns, corrupt. This is what I'm really seeing. I can't believe how corrupt our media is. It's gross. And the great news is they stand up against Doge and Elon Musk, and America's behind it. And they're like, shut up. This guy's brilliant. Elon Musk, he's brilliant. What they're doing is fantastic. So, yeah, great stuff. So that's happening. But at the same time, as we're taking away the money from these monsters, it's going to start biting now, this deep state. And there's probably nobody more deep state than the corrupt, disgustingly dishonest, filthy, nasty, lying, disgusting 6'8" or 9" goon that his people at FBI called him Cardinal Comey because he He walked with his arms on his chest like he was some patron saint of the FBI. The guy was an absolute monster crook, and his days are coming. But here's Comey bragging back in the day about how he set up General Flynn. He's happy about it. He makes it insinuate that Flynn did not something wrong. Of course, Flynn did nothing wrong. At that time, they charged him. He didn't know he did nothing wrong. They didn't give him the information that was due him. When he finally got Sidney Powell on board, they start digging into it. She knew exactly what to work for or look for, and she knew exactly who she was working with. She was working with criminals in our DOJ and FBI. The leadership of the DOJ and FBI were as corrupt as hell. They rank to me up there with some of the nastiest of some of the most corrupt regimes in history. And that was James Comey and others. So here's Comey bragging about putting, about targeting General Flynn and getting him. This video, I've seen it before, but something to remind yourself about. This is James Comey.
It's hard to imagine 2 FBI agents ending up in the sit room. How did that happen?
I sent them. Something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with in a more organized investigation, a more organized administration, in the George W. Bush administration, for example, or the Obama administration. The protocol, 2 men that all of us have perhaps increased appreciation for over the last 2 years. And in both of those administrations, there was process. And so if the FBI wanted to send agents into the White House itself to interview a senior official, you would work through the White House counsel, and there'd be discussions and approvals and who would be there. And I thought, it's early enough, let's just send a couple guys over. And so we placed a call to Flynn, said, hey, we're sending a couple guys over. Hope you'll talk to them. He said, sure. Nobody else was there. They interviewed him in a conference room at the White House Situation Room, and he lied to them. And that's what he's now pled guilty to.
What did he think they were coming over there for?
I don't think he knew. No, we didn't tell him. Just said, we got sending over a couple of agents. I want to ask you some questions. I didn't have this conversation. My deputy director did. But hope you got a few minutes you can sit down and talk to them. And he said, sure.
What a disgusting, I don't have enough words for Jim Comey. By the way, just to bring some light to the situation, he has 2 daughters, both married now to gentlemen working in the DOJ. His one daughter, by the way, if you remember his daughter up in the Southern District of New York, she was involved with the Epstein case where he was murdered and they claimed it was suicide. And there's some video that she had to not, well, they came corrupted. We just couldn't get that video to work. That was Comey's daughter. So, and then one of his sons was just recently, I think he was let go because they let go of the prosecutors related to January 6th in DC. And one of Comey's sons was one of those prosecutors. So I assume he got fired along with his dad, father-in-law anyways, Jim Comey, like father, like son. And there you have it. Just such, I'm happy to share this. This family is just never should be in our DOJ, should lose their licenses. These people are not honest, good, God-loving people. It's disgusting what they've done. It just infuriates me, especially watching Comey do that to General Flynn, who was an innocent man. He didn't know what was going on. They snuck in there. They lied about basically what he said. The whole thing was a setup. When Sidney Powell comes in, she asked for all this information. They didn't give it all to her. They just finally said, well, we're just going to drop the case. And Flynn never did get all the evidence he asked for, because that would have proven these monsters were absolute criminals going after Flynn. They needed to get Flynn. I think Obama hated Flynn because Flynn started standing up against Obama's crazy policies of feeding actually billions to the Iranians. It was insane. So good news. James Comey is going to be on the check. They're doing an investigation now, Comey. Maybe you've heard about it. I didn't know a lot about this, but apparently President Trump was a target of Comey in 2015. They put a couple honeypots in to Trump's campaign. I didn't even know if I even appreciated all this. I knew George Papadopoulos had a honeypot that was brought into his in his universe before the 2016 election. I didn't realize President Trump did as well. And that was Comey, and Comey did it. And my understanding is he knew it wasn't right because he kept it siloed out of this normal system, and he managed it like up here on a shelf where nobody else could see it. So that's what they're looking into now. That sounds pretty sinister and criminal to me, if you ask me, for sure. Comey is something else. Here's a video of him really recently, before, I think this was before the 2024 election. I don't think it was 2020, where he's saying, oh, we're going to have to vote for Biden. Maybe it was 2020, but look at how scared he is of Trump, another Trump administration. Take a look at this.
Are you concerned that it may get a test unlike any other if Donald Trump is reelected? I mean, when you think about a second Trump administration, what do you think the implications would be for the FBI?
Oh, serious, for the Justice Department and the FBI, because Trump is coming for those institutions. He knows their power, and I think he has regrets that he didn't work hard enough to corrupt them last time. So he's coming for them, and that's a danger for all Americans. He's going to put people in positions in those organizations. He didn't have all-stars the last time. He'll have the bottom of the barrel this time, but people who will want to do his will, and that should worry every American. This election matters. Because of a reason like that, people have to participate. You cannot sit on the sideline. I don't care how you feel about Joe Biden, you must vote for him because the consequences on the other side are too severe.
He looks scared there, doesn't he? He looks scared. Well, he should be, because there's an investigation looking into just one of his crimes right now. So he should be scared. Maybe you also remember back to the 2016, before the election, how Hillary had gotten in all that trouble with her emails. And the FBI investigated, and they found out that there were, yes, indeed, there were a number of emails that she had in a server that were classified that she shouldn't have kept on her own premises. Here's the thing about that. Comey let her go, but the problem is, what was in those emails? How come we don't know what was in those emails? To me, I'll bet you there was so much filth and corruption in those emails, we'd be appalled, maybe throwing up today with what was in those. So anyways, Comey's such a creep. But here, I remember seeing this back in 2016 and putting it up. It's brilliant, and it's still brilliant today. It's a remix of Comey exonerating Hillary. Take a look.
Good morning. I'm here to give you an update on the FBI's investigation of Secretary Clinton. What I want to do is tell you what we're recommending. But first, let me tell you what we found. 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined to contain classified information.
What difference at this point does it make?
8 of those chains are top secret, 36 of those chains secret, and 8 contain confidential information.
What difference at this point does it make?
Everything I did was permitted. There was no law, no regulation.
Secretary Clinton should have known that an unclassified system was no place for that conversation.
I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email.
None of these emails should have been on any kind of unclassified system, not even Gmail.
Well, first of all, nothing was marked classified.
To the contrary.
Nothing was marked classified.
There is evidence that
Nothing was marked classified.
Now let me tell you what we found. 110 emails.
It was not the best choice.
52 email chains.
It was a mistake.
Have been determined to contain classified information.
What difference at this point does it make?
8 of those chains were top secret.
Wasn't the best choice.
36 of those chains
I said
secret.
it was a mistake.
And 8 contain confidential information.
What difference at this point does it make?
With respect to our recommendation, this is going to be an unusual statement in at least a couple of ways. Although there is evidence, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. I know there will be intense public debate. I know there will be intense public debate. I know there will be intense public debate. What difference at this point does it make? 110 emails.
It wasn't the best choice.
52 email chains.
I made a mistake.
Have been determined to contain classified information.
What difference at this point does it make?
8 of those chains were top
It was not a
secret.
good choice.
36 of those chains
That thing is so great. That is so funny. I'm dancing, in the background here with Ann Vandersteel, who's our guest coming up. We're having a good time doing the Trump dance to this great video. We'll have to play it again when Ann's here. We'll show you our dance moves. It's pretty amazing stuff. So, anyways, one other piece I wanted to mention: George Soros is not out of it now. It looks like they're starting to wake up on George Soros as well. The FCC is looking into a recent purchase of George Soros. I think one of the most corrupt and devilish person in U.S. history, if not world history. He is sinister, helped the Nazis as a young boy, sent Jews to concentration camps. I can't think of somebody more disgusting and evil than this guy for sure. He seems to be the kingpin behind all this corruption. So here's a brief clip from, I believe this was Morning Maria, talking with this head of the FCC. He's going to be looking into him right away here. So anyways, take a look at this.
Question in terms of ensuring that everyone gets treated fairly. In the past, you've said, look, if your name is Musk or if your name is somebody who the administration doesn't like, you're going to get different treatment. And that's been the case for the last couple of years, hasn't it?
Yeah, look, that type of lawfare is going to end. For too long in this government, particularly over the last couple of years, your last name dictated how the government treated you. If your last name was Soros, well, the commission bent over backwards and gave you a special, unprecedented commission-level shortcut to buy 200 radio stations. If your last name was Musk, well, then you lost $800 million contracts that you lawfully got. Everybody now is going to get a fair shake going forward.
Will Soros still be able to acquire those 200 radio stations?
There's a petition for reconsideration pending at the FCC right now, and I want to take a very hard look at that.
Okay. We're going to be watching your work closely. Commissioner, thank you so much.
It's all just the tip of the iceberg. So much is going on now. It's unreal and it's fantastic. So lots going on, and we're praying. And this is it's like another day of Christmas. Again, every day seems to be getting great. Anyways, before we go to break, I wanted to mention one of our supporters here at this channel, and how you can get involved and help us out. And I want to share this with you. The world's smartest investors aren't buying oil stocks. They're collecting mailbox money from oil royalties instead. I'm talking about passive income that shows up month after month, starting with as little as 25 bucks. Visit hoftoilboom.com. That's HOFTOILBOOM.com to discover how to tap into this monthly royalty checks from America's most productive oil basin. You don't need to be wealthy or connected. You just need a regular brokerage account. That's hoftoilboom.com to learn more. You can reach out to this website, and or you could also start collecting oil royalty checks very soon. So wanted to promote that. These are one of our supporters. Hopefully you can help us with that. We'll be right back right after this with the great dancer as well, Ann Vandersteel. So Hi, this is Joe Hoft. Are you looking for monthly income without the risk of stocks? Here's something you won't hear about on CNBC. This unique way to collect royalties directly from America's most productive oil fields. No exploring, drilling, or operational headaches. You simply collect checks month after month. The best part? You can get started with just $25 through any brokerage account. The Oxford Club's chief income strategist, Mark Lechtenfeld, breaks down what he believes is the #1 royalty play for 2025. Visit hoftoilboom.com now to learn more. That's hoftoilboom.com, hoftoilboom.com. Stop buying oil stocks and start collecting oil royalty checks now instead.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act.
As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage.
We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle. Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF. What is DCF, you ask? We're the best damn sandwich shop in the universe. Do we sell hoagies? Well, we're DCF, and the F doesn't stand for hoagies. We got 9mm sandwiches, we got beastly baguettes, and we toast buns like no other. Looking for training on bun safety? We got you covered, and our Rangers are the best place to test out your new Not sandwich. So get your buns out, cause the sun's out, and let's party! We're not actually a sandwich shop.
Hey, we are back. This is Joe Hoft on the Joe Hoft Show with none other than the great Ann Vandersteel. Ann, welcome to the Joe Hoft Show.
Joe, good to be with you. Listen, that was we got to dance more often because, frankly, we have a lot to celebrate. That video is just epic of Hillary Clinton and James Comey.
Oh man,
I love our side. We meme so much better than the other guys. We're just the bomb.
I saw some great stuff this morning too. I saw some great stuff. There was one that came out. I'll have to send it to you later. I was going to put it up on the show today, and maybe I'll get it up tomorrow. But it's about Trump mega Gaza. Trump Gaza. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, I've just seen it. He looks like the Don, like not because he's Donald, but he looks like the Don as he's kicking back on the beach, and it's a beautiful setting, and it goes from rubble to just gold.
Yeah, gold everywhere. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
That's so cool. I'd heard that Trump's message about Gaza and the U.S. taking it over. I have heard that they found a bunch of oil there. Have you heard that?
Well, it doesn't surprise me, because they have the largest, world's largest reserve of natural gas is off the coast of Gaza. So where there's one, there's the other. Typically, I've never heard of it not being in that situation. So they are, it's a massive reserve of oil. Listen, the fact of the matter is none of that stuff was ever in short supply, but they've manufactured these crises everywhere, right? We've got energy crisis, we have a health crisis, we have a food crisis. Everything is a crisis, and it's because it's manufactured by these people who are trying to control us. So I think what President Trump is trying to do, and it's sometimes in the fog of war, Joe, it's really hard to understand. And sometimes I have to go, wait a minute, whose side is he on? Because I get a little freaked out. But when I step back and I look at what he's doing, he's liberating all of us, not just Americans, from the deep state, from the financial terrorists and the international bankers, the private bankers. He's liberating the world from all of the same evil people. And, even Israel has infiltration. They have problems in their government like we do. Nobody's immune from the deep state terrorism that has taken over these countries. And until we get the dollar in whatever form it is, predominantly, hopefully backed by gold and the natural resources we have in our country, nobody wanted it anymore. Look, they were dumping our treasuries all over. BRICS had to stand up their own stuff with their own asset-backed currency, which made a heck of a lot more sense than our inflationary zero net worth dollar. So with Trump bringing all this back together, I think this is going to be a bonus round. Like he said, golden, this is the golden age, not just for Americans, it's for humanity. It's really amazing what's happening. And in the meantime, you see losers like, Gavin Newsom, without their USAID funded fourth branch of government, providing lip service for them, having to turn to podcasting. I love it. I told him, I said I'd be his first guest. I'll go toe to toe. No talking points in advance needed, Gavin.
No kidding. Oh my God. That's just pathetic. I don't know. I don't know who's going to watch it. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Hey, if you were his guest, he said he would bring on people from, opposite viewpoints. If you were his guest, I'd tune in. It'd be a banner crowd. I mean, I'd love to see you go toe to toe with that guy.
I'd love to destroy that guy for sure. California is a mess. It's financially, it's elections, everything. I've written a number of pieces about Orange County there. I don't know if you noticed that. And
Yes, yeah, you had some great election stuff on
yes,
Orange County.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it's a mess out there. And
Yep.
I offered to do an audit,
That's
and they
right, the
didn't
audit.
respond for a couple weeks. And then I did get a response last night. So,
Really? What did they
but
say?
well, well, yeah, you can do an audit, but before you hire anybody, I probably better let you know this. And I'm summarizing it. This is my quick understanding of what he said. Well, if you want to look at the ballots or the envelopes, well, you can't have access. So, unless you get a court order. So good luck there, basically. And then the second category, if you want to look at the systems or any of these machines or devices, well, and this is breaking news, by the way, not many people know I got this letter. They say, well, you can't have access because if you touch these machines, we're going to have to buy new ones, and we don't want to do that. So you can't look at the ballots or the envelopes. You can't look at the machines. And then there's the voter rolls. But if you want to look at that data, well, there's all these fields, and we're not sure we can give you access to that either. So other than that, feel free to go ahead and do an audit. But you can't look at the systems, you can't look at the ballots, and vote and all that. And I'm just like, well, that's something else.
That sounds like Jenna Griswold's twin sister must be running as Secretary of State in California, some distant relative, or maybe half the egg count. I'm not sure, but wow, that is a joke. Yeah. As if the American people can't see through that. You need to publish that whole letter, Joe. I mean, that's hysterical.
Yeah, thanks. It is. It's funny. My response to him is going to be this. This is kind of like a Saturday Night Live skit or something. It's a comedy skit. It's like, you can do it. It's like, well, yeah, you can come to my house, but you can't come in. Don't touch my doorbell. Don't knock. And other than that, yeah, stop on by, It's like, what is this? It's crazy. So, yeah, the transparency is the thing that really grabs me about our elections, difference between that and corporate and well, in the election process. And I was wondering about the government. Is the government all like this? But the fact that we can't have this transparency, and yet it's our elections. It's not their elections, it's our elections. And I compare that to the corporate world. And I've done, maybe you've heard me share this, audits around the world, including in communist China. And when I went to communist China, they gave me everything I wanted. I never had a problem. They gave me everything. So they are more transparent, at least the audits I did in China, than our election processes in the U.S.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
I believe it. I absolutely believe it. I actually did a FOIA on myself. Gosh, I guess it's been well over a year, and it took 8 months to get the FOIA information back. But the reason I wanted to do a FOIA was because after January 6th, I was put on the domestic terror list, the Quiet Skies program in April of 2021, long before Tulsi Gabbard. Really, I was the first person, I think, put on that list. And I was traveling, somewhere between 4 to 6 flights a week for like 2 years, because Steel Truth was always moving around. Yeah. And it was really a hassle. And it was quite, the TSA was ruthless. Utterly ruthless. I missed flights. They would make me go through security again. I'd fail bomb tests. It was like a nightmare. But I did a FOIA because I wanted to know, I wanted them to tell me that I was on the Quiet Skies list, because when I first got a letter that says I was going to no longer qualify for TSA PreCheck program, which I'd been a member of for years, including the Clear program, because I travel a lot, they didn't give me a reason why. They just said they checked my name against 4 databases, which include national security, regulatory, IRS, and something else. So I was like, okay, what's the reason? They didn't give me a specific reason other than I was not a low enough security threat. I did a FOIA to ask, do you know they finally, after 8 months, gave me a letter back from the DOJ, because I FOIA'd DOJ, FBI, TSA, DHS. I got one letter that said my name was still part of an active investigation. And this is before President Trump actually won. And of course, before we started pardoning J6ers. I think now that DOJ has got their eyeballs inside the DOJ and the FBI and all these agencies, I'm going to FOIA DOJ and be like, can you help me find out what it was that put me on this list? Because I was treated like a terrorist. Why not? There's some transparency that I should be told what I did, don't you think, if there's an investigation?
No, absolutely. That's unbelievable. You hear this stuff. I've talked to some of these January Sixers. A guy named Evans out of West Virginia ran for office up there. He said
Oh,
he
Derek Evans,
almost
he's
does.
fabulous.
Yeah, he's great. And he said, yeah, he had to go. He went through security, had to walk about 100 feet, and then that was his gate. And they had him do the whole thing over before he could get on the flight. Delayed the
Uh-huh.
flight. Everybody's pissed at him because the flight's delayed. He's just trying to get on a flight because he was a January Sixer. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
unbelievable. You know, just bullying. It's really all this stuff is like what we read about as kids in communist, Russia, how you
Right.
just get just attacked all the time, and
Yeah.
that prevents people then from standing up,
That's
out of
right.
fear. We're so blessed.
We are blessed. And I heard you before you came to the segment with me talking about I guess it was the law firm and what they did to General Flynn. I just want to put a little extra color on that. This is not a well-known fact, but in September of 2017, I interviewed Scott Bennett, who wrote a book called The Shell Game. I don't know if you ever interviewed him, but he was a prisoner along with another gentleman, Bradley Birkendale, who was a UBS whistleblower. This is circa 2008 and 2009 when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. And you will remember this. We had the Swiss banking scandal where there was 19,000 Swiss bank accounts that state sponsors of terror were laundering money through these Swiss banks. And the Clinton Foundation was on the take, not only from the Swiss bank, but also from these countries that were state sponsors of terror, like Saudi Arabia and Iran and Qatar and UAE and Dubai, whatever. So long story short, UBS whistleblower Bradley Birkendale came forward and they threw him in jail where he met Scott Bennett, who was also in jail for another reason. But they met and they came to the consensus that, Covington Burling was a very corrupt law firm because it represented not only these Swiss banks that were laundering all this money that disappeared, by the way, no one ever found the 19,000 Swiss bank accounts, but that firm also represented all these countries that are known state sponsors of terror. At that point, I had just interviewed Joe Flynn and I had just met Sidney Powell at a Turning Point event. And Sidney had asked me to interview her about her book. Joe, I didn't know who she was. This is a long time ago.
Yeah.
She had just
Yeah.
written her book, License to Lie. Nobody knew who this nice lady was. And I said, sure, I'll interview you. She seemed lovely. I interviewed her and I was like, wow, this book's unbelievable. Now I understand how they got Obamacare through. It was, it was Sullivan and it was Ted Stevens and all this stuff. So I was like, this is interesting. So I'm trying to get to the short story. When I realized who Robert Kellner is, because that's the attorney that they're talking about with this money laundering through Covington Burling, I said, oh my God, Robert Kellner, when I've studied the whole Flynn debacle, was the attorney that represented General Flynn in his FARA paperwork when he filed for the Flynn Intel Group that was doing lawful business with Dutch companies inside of Turkey. And Mike Flynn Jr. was actually responsible for that sort of back-end paperwork. The FBI, when James Comey, that slimeball, sent those agents in, Strzok and Pientka, to go interview General Flynn, they lied about his 302, and they got Flynn to agree to the lie when they fabricated the new 302 because they were going to squeeze him on intentionally filed faulty FARA paperwork that Robert Kellner, the attorney that Flynn hired to represent his company to make sure his filings were clean with the federal government, his FARA paperwork, and that's how they set him up. And Flynn sacrificed himself because he didn't want to put Junior in prison. They were going to try and jail Junior. That was the story behind it. So when I realized all this was going on, I picked up the phone and called Joe, who I'd only interviewed once. And I said, oh my God, your brother has got a terrible attorney. And I just met this really nice lady, Sidney Powell. You should try and track her down. Wouldn't you know, Joe went to Dallas to a conference where he tracked her down, and the rest is history. How about that?
And how about that? That's an amazing story. My God.
Never really told it before. Never told that publicly.
Wow.
That's just, it's all this behind the scenes crazy stuff that goes on when you're in our little world.
So to clarify then, this attorney that I'd heard Flynn had this attorney, they filed for the FARA, but then they also represented him. Some people said that was a conflict of interest because they filed for him. Now they're representing him. And they obviously didn't do a good job. And
by design.
Because they got him in a lot of trouble. Yeah, they got him in a lot of trouble.
By design, conflict of interest, and they got him to agree to take a plea and admit guilt for something he didn't do. He didn't lie at all. They fabricated the 302. And I remember reporting way back when Cernovich was doing it also. We were all saying, where's Joe Pientka? Where's Joe Pientka? Where's that 302? Where's the original 302? We knew what they did. And eventually the truth comes out, and it came out so badly. The DOJ, as you know, finally spiked the case and said, we're throwing in the towel. It was Sullivan, the judge, who was obviously, God only knows, he's being told to continue that case going. He's now legislating and attacking from the bench. You can't do that. So,
Well,
it's really crazy.
I'll tell you a story connected to that. So remember Sullivan brought in another judge to kind of like help him prosecute the case, which was insane.
Like an
The whole thing,
amicus. It was like an amicus judge. Yep.
And his name was, oh God, I just had his name, Sweeney or something. I forgot his name.
Sweeney sounds right, sort of, but I remember the situation.
Right. But anyways, I just had the guy's name as you were talking, and I lost it. But here's what's wild about that story. So 33 years ago, a guy by the name of Mike Sessa was indicted for murder in New York City. He was a mob member. He and some other people were found guilty of this crime of murdering somebody. Mike is still in prison 33 years later. The problem with the case is they ended up using a witness who happened to be a mafia hitman, who many people believe he's the actual murderer. And this is all happening in New York. And this prosecutor of Mike Sessa was none other than Weissman. Can you believe
Andrew
it?
Weissman?
Andrew Weissman.
Wow.
And he withheld information from the court. He says, well, I think he said something like, well, I can't give you the name of the witness, Judge, but it's a good, valid witness and in good standing. But if we gave you his name, his life would be in danger. You know, they did that, remember, with the whistleblower against Trump. Same thing. Well, we can't tell you who it is, but it's a valid, source. Where we all think it's Charmel.
Remember, we couldn't say Eric CIA Morella.
Yeah, that's perfect. So, anyways, this Weissman. So this guy knows Weissman. I was writing about Weissman. He starts writing me from prison saying, "Hey, Joe, this guy's been doing this for 30 some years."
Wow.
And then he was involved in, and Sidney Powell wrote about him in that License to Lie. And then he takes over the Mueller gang, and he's doing the same stuff 33 years later. Other guys, there was 4 guys that were indicted right after Sessa that ended up, their case was either thrown out or they were found not guilty because the witness turned out to be a mafia hitman. But it's the same guy that Sessa had. And he's sitting in jail 33 years. They're keeping him in there probably because he knows too much on Weissman. Yeah. And one of the people that worked with him was this judge that then went and worked with Sullivan. The same guy was in the New York group, along with Weissman, along with Jim Comey, along with Loretta Lynch. They were all New York Eastern District of the DOJ. Just a bunch of crooks. Is that amazing?
It's so utterly incredible. That New York State, the SDNY, the EDNY, what a cesspool. What a cesspool. And then you layer in what we know about Nexium and Hillary Clinton and just, all of it. It's so incredible. And I remember, Joe, in 2017, I was live on Your Voice America when we used to podcast on Periscope with Bill Mitchell and Jack Posobiec and a bunch of others. Oh, wow. And we had a huge podcast back then because nobody was doing what we're doing right now. We were very unique in a lot of ways. And I said to Bill Mitchell, I said, not only does Congress in Washington, D.C. need an enema of epic proportion to get rid of the cesspool. I said, but moreover than that, we are going to come to learn that around the world, 85% of world leadership is basically infiltrated with pedophiles and child sex traffickers. And boy, man, did David Brock and Media Matters and James Alefantis and all those people come for me. They sent me their own special a band of trolls directly from John Brennan. And I think Keith Ellison was involved in all this stuff. It was an insane time. I was just getting absolutely targeted, like crazy targeted. They were doing live streams with death threats and physical attacks, all kinds of crazy stuff. But I remember someone, coming to the conclusion several years later, I was wrong. It was 95%. It wasn't 85. So anyway.
Yeah, unbelievable. But yeah, and so you wonder, and how many people do you think really are? If we took out 1,000 people, meaning we put them in prison, got them out of society, how many would it take to clean this country up?
Oof. How many would we have to drain to clean this country up? Well, first of all, we'd have to start with all the illegals that are here. I mean, frankly, I'm for
Right.
deporting all of them. It's,
Yeah, me too.
the people are going to say, oh, you're separating families. No, then the family has a choice to go with, the child can go with the mother and father. I don't believe in this nonsense of other interpretation of the 14th and birthright citizenship. That's not the
Yeah, yeah.
intention. All that needs to just, we need a clean slate. I'm all for immigration. My father was a legal immigrant. I believe in it, but not
Yeah.
what we have today. And in terms of Washington, D.C., I think the real estate market there is telling you the swamp and the trash are taking itself out. You've got over 8,000 homes in the 10 square miles of D.C. for sale right now. That's a price correction of at least 30%, somewhere between 150 to 200,000 on average per home is been reduced. So the swamp and the trash are taking itself out right now. And that's a great start. I think if we start by draining the agency government and just getting rid and shrinking the federal government a la Doge, what they're doing is fantastic. But as far
Yeah.
as the criminals in this country, I look at the way the corporations have been run in this public-private partnership. It is so incestuous. You don't know where government ends and a public corporation begins. They have literally come together, and that's the regulatory fault. Frankly, that is where you have industry leaders going from, say, corporation A or B or C in a set industry over to the agency that's to regulate these companies over here, that industry. And when you have profits from previous industry titans in government, they don't want to see their corporate stock get trashed. So no matter how bad the news is coming out of corporate America, they are not going to penalize them. And if so, it's going to be a small little slap on the wrist because they can't afford to see their own corporate profits destroyed, because that means their retirement is at stake. We have got to stop all of that, Joe. It's got to be very simple. And there's, we have lost the idea and the beauty of that local government and how important that is, that nest egg. It's sort of like me worrying about what's going on in your house and not giving a crap about what's going on in mine makes no sense. I got to worry about what's happening in my own kitchen and my kids and everything here before I'm going to worry about Joe Hoft and his family. Because if I don't, my family could fall apart. So if we're constantly putting our nose where it doesn't belong, which is what the government's been doing, and not minding our own stores personally, we have ourselves to blame, unfortunately. But I think we're coming around to that realization, and people are getting active, which is exciting.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. And just a question, Mark. I probably maybe should have started with this, but what's your story? When did you start kind of getting into the news business? I don't know if you'd call it the news business that you're in. How would you define what it is that you do, and how'd you get into it? When did you get into this?
Actually,
I've heard about you for a long time, by the way.
I think we're in the sewer business, Joe. We're constantly, wading through the muck, the yuck, as they say. I don't want to say the other word, but you know what I mean. It started, I worked for President Trump in the 90s, and I loved him then. He was a fantastic boss. He was very, very great hands-on when he would come into our building, which was weekly, and talk to the ladies in the office. We had a very small office, 5 women. He asked questions, and then he shut up and listened, which was great. In 2015, when he came down the escalator, I said, well, I guess I got to get on that platform that Jay-Z and Beyonce use, that thing called Twitter, because I thought it was just a bunch of nonsense. But I got on, I found a voice, people found me. And next thing I know, I ended up on this podcast, Your Voice America. And from there, I launched my own show, and it just kind of organically grew. I come from a sort of a James O'Keefe background. My mother was the original James O'Keefe. When I grew up, she was doing that kind of work, just really holding people accountable on waste, fraud, and abuse. And I grew up helping her wordsmith pieces. She put out newsletters, some of them public under her name, some of them under pen names. Art Bookwald was a name she used for a long time, and she just lambasted the local government. It was great, and got a lot of people up in arms. And you know what? In our town that I grew up in, Joe, we didn't just leave or pull. We didn't just vote Republican or Democrat. People voted for the best person on the issues in which they decided and the positions they took. And that's what was unique about my mom, even though she was a Republican and my dad libertarian. They voted Democrat for the mayor many times because he stood on the issues better than the Republican. And so I think that's what we need to get back to in this country. The fact that they even bastardized our political process in the late 1800s when they reintroduced the idea of Whigs and Tories a la Republicans and Democrats. We were Americans. And then all of a sudden we became Republicans and Democrats, and then we became US citizens. And it's been a slide into this communist abyss since then, but we are pulling ourselves out, and President Trump is restoring the republic by reducing this de facto fake agency government and restoring the de jure, the real republic. It's a beautiful thing to witness and live through. We are blessed to be a witness to the restoration of God's second covenant nation, truly.
I agree. I think, maybe we talked about this the other day. By the way, it was great seeing you and your husband at
Likewise.
that event with Able Child, and Jim got that award. That
Jim
was
got that
awesome.
award. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was really, really nice event.
After you got the award last year, which was awesome.
Yeah, thanks. And it was an honor to be there and to see that. And along with Jim, we had those two ladies from Reform Pharma, Bobby Kennedy's group. They
Incredible.
were great. And then that doctor that received an award too.
Yep.
I had Charlene Bollinger on the show. Was it this Friday? I guess it was Friday. And she came out with a new movie. I believe one of those doctors in that movie. So
yeah.
It's about something about standing up against the lies that we've been fed. And I've watched the first half of it or so. I want to see the whole thing. It's great. But he was in there. He's talking about how the doctors here in Florida were basically paid to, I'd say, to put people on hospice, which is really to kill people.
Sure.
And outrageous stuff, but she shared that anyways. So yeah, it was a great event. That guy was something else too, wasn't he?
The whole event was fantastic, and Sheila, who runs that event, is an exceptional woman. At the end of the day, what we are witnessing is the wake up call that I believe, and I don't want to sound preachy, but life is not as complicated as we make it to be. If we look at what is put on this planet, and we recognize there's two sexes, just the fundamentals, and we just can set the nut bags aside for a minute and just go back to the basics. We have everything we need. And, Charlene and Ty Bollinger are exceptional people. I mean, major kudos and mad love for them. They supported the work that we did out in North Carolina through Ground Zero, North Carolina, and the folks from the Remnant Ministry out of Texas that came to do a lot of work in human trafficking. Very generous to support all those efforts. And kudos and shout outs. They are truth tellers and have been doing this for years longer than you or I. They've been around for a long time. And as Charlene will attest, she's seen truth tellers come and go in this business. And it's, you can see the charlatans now from a mile away, or at least I think we can after 10 years of being around this whole ethos of new media. But this is where we are evolving at this point, which is, you could look at it as devolution. We're going back to the basics of what God has created for our lawful system, our true, law and order, for our health and wellness, and basically to protect the sanctity of life. At the end of the day, that's what God wanted us to do, and be here, have dominion over this earth, enjoy life, treat others as you want to be treated, right? And what we have right now is anything but that. They have bastardized and completely inverted everything that we do, including our food system, our healthcare system, our financial system, just respect for others that God created around the world. We're now pitted to hating somebody because they don't look like us. This is, that's all inorganic. It's not organic. And as people come to realize, when we start to see on social media, Romanians standing outside for Georgescu's removal, waiting for him, they've now made him a political prisoner, which is this close to what President Trump became, a political prisoner, just like our J6ers were hostages. People are waking up saying, we're done with the tyranny. We're done with the big government. We, the people, want to rule again. And they're recognizing that God made us to be free. Just Americans have had the pleasure of being able to immortalize that into a document. But we forsake those documents just like we've forsaken our God. And it's all coming back to that. And, you guys, what you've done, your column, the Gateway Pundit, and other great media outlets have really, I think, helped restore the intellect of the Americans. It's just beautiful to be a witness to.
That's awesome. I was talking to, actually another lady, I think I can share her name, Pamela Geller, who was
I
really
love Pamela
I do
Geller.
too. Yeah, she's
Oof.
so strong.
Powerful.
She stood up against radical Islam with the courage of a warrior. And
Amy
we were
Mack.
talking about, yeah, she's fantastic. We were talking about Trump and what we're going through right now. And she said, I said, I think this is historic. This is like a story that you'll share in 2,000 years from now, like Romeo and Juliet or whatever. It's so Macbeth or whatever. This story of this billionaire with this beautiful family running for president, beating Hillary, getting targeted, then almost impeached, and then impeached twice, and then they tried to throw him out of office, and then they steal the election, and then he ends up getting arrested how many times, almost thrown in prison for 700 years or whatever it is. Then he gets shot. Then another guy tries to shoot him. Then he wins the election. And Elon Musk jumps on board, the world's richest man, not just a rich man, but the world's richest man actually ever. And he joins Trump. And then Bobby Kennedy Jr. joins Trump, the one remaining Kennedy that seems to just is so spot on with so much. And then the rest of the people now piled on. Dan Bongino just I mean, the list is awesome. The story is magnificent. I think this is going to be really powerful. She goes, I think he's the most important guy maybe in world history, one of the top 5. So she goes, David, Napoleon, Trump. I mean, putting it in perspective, and I know liberals' heads would pop off when I say that, I don't think she's too far off. This time that we're living in, like you're saying, it's not just magical, but it's historic. This stuff, and we're living in it right now. You're right. We should be just celebrating.
We should be. And in fact, the joke that, that's been made over and over with the memes is Trump's going to have his face on Mount Rushmore. Well, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, why not? Look at everything he's managed to accomplish. And I think the next couple of years, to Bongino's credit, stepping aside from a podcast where he's making upwards of $3 million+ a year, successfully earning every penny of it, I absolutely begrudge none of that. Good for him. He's done one hell of a job. And talk about inside information. Come on, I mean, he knows how the sausage is made working under the Hillary Clinton, regime, or Bill Clinton regime, I should say. But to see him step into that role, I was talking about it this morning with my husband. I said, I think he's probably only going to have to do this for a couple of years, because if Trump, and he alluded to it again in his press conference, but if he goes and makes a move for paper ballots, same-day voting, voter ID, get rid of, I don't know, clean up the voter rolls, get rid of Eric, whatever you got to do to make sure we have true, serious elections, then 2026 is going to be a red wave like we've never seen. Truly, we are going to the country is going to show who they really are, and we'll have a reflective and and reflexive election to basically bolster our conservative values in the representatives that we have. Will Bongino be needed after that point? I don't know. I think he can go back to being a podcaster if he wants, or he can retire and they can get changing of the guard. And if these agency heads that Trump has picked do their jobs, the agencies will be slimmed down or eradicated, like Linda McMahon and her challenge and edict basically from President Trump. Do your job right, Linda, you won't have a job. I'd like to see a little more of that across some other agencies. I'd like to see the FBI really become more of an NCIS or an Interpol supercomputer, a research tool, and send these agents out to be part of the sheriff's department, as and grow that group of intelligence and officers and law enforcement. Keep everything local, because as you know, what's good on your dinner table doesn't necessarily feed my family. We may not have the same taste. And so that's why you have to have local law enforcement. It's why these federal agencies don't work. They're not effective. I mean, in North Carolina, in 10 weeks, the only thing we saw from FEMA was these camps they set up to enrich themselves. It was money laundering, Joe. It wasn't doing anything in the field. And if they were in the field, they were avoiding Trump supporters that had signs in their yards. So, this whole idea that the federal government can reach into your local community and decide what's best for you never has worked, ever. And so I do believe that what we're witnessing is that return to the local action having a national impact. And we're going to restore the fabric one county at a time. And when every single county's crochet circle is closed back up again and we have no loose threads, we're going to knit that beautiful blanket of freedom all over our entire country. And we can return to operating like a union of states as our Constitution originally declared. So I'm so excited about what's happening right now. I really am.
I think it's fantastic. I tell you what, Ann, we could talk for hours, but Chris, can we get that James Comey tape? Can you play that for a little bit here as we close the show today? Maybe we can dance on out.
Let's dance on out.
If you can do our Trump,
We'll do our Trump dance.
See if Chris, you can get that. I don't know if he's ready for me or not, but anyways, that'd be the way to end this show. But Ann, it's a pleasure having you. You know, really incredible information. I didn't know you started this in 2015. I thought you were around for 20 years or something. I had no idea.
Nope.
You've been doing
Babe
so
in the
great.
woods. Babe in the woods, Joe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess Chris must have dumped the Trump video. I'm not sure. So, or the James Comey video. That thing's a classic, though. Like you said, you've seen it a number of times. I've seen it a number of times. It's appropriate now. I think James Comey needs to go to prison, and actually,
Brennan.
or worse, you know, with if it's treason, which I think it was. I always thought it was. You can't try to remove a president from office through you know, through the techniques they did. I think it's really powerful that maybe we will see some real justice coming up here soon, and that we need it. So
Yeah. Well, if Jason Burmis has his way, as he told us earlier today, he'd put them all into prison with 24-hour live streaming so we could watch them all, you know, in their most indecent of moments, because, you know, the public humiliation, I think would be far worse than a firing squad. I'd rather be shot to death than be on TV 24/7.
oh my God, that'd be brutal. That'd be
Wouldn't it?
brutal. Yeah,
Yeah.
put them in solitaire for the time period they did with some of these Jan Sixers. Let's see how
Yeah.
they handle that.
That's
It's
right.
outrageous, outrageous. Anyways, well, yeah, thanks so much for being here. Have a great day. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Joe.
all you do. You've been doing great
Likewise.
work. Thanks a lot.
Likewise. Bye.
All right. We'll be back tomorrow on the Joe Hoff Show. Thanks so much for being here. See you then.